Lakshita, you may begin.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lakshita Jain.
And my name is Saloni Khanna.
We are the second year students of Government Law College, Mumbai. We shall be your hosts for the day.
We welcome you all to today's session on the topic JAG Entry in the Indian Army. We would like to welcome our keynote speaker, Captain Shyam Kumar, retired Indian Navy officer. We are honored by your presence, sir.
We also have with us our program officer, Professor Krutika Temburnika ma'am, and other senior professors and faculty members. We also have with us extremely senior members of the legal profession.
We would like to share that the Judge Advocate General's Department is the legal branch of the Indian Army. It deals with military-related disciplinary cases and litigation and assists in providing legal assistance to the Army in human rights matters and the rule of law, among other things.
More details of the topic will be dealt into by our Reverend Speaker.
I would now like to take this opportunity to introduce our Honorable Principal, Dr. Asmita Vaidya, an academician, educator, social activist, and an able administrator whose vast experience in the field of academia and social service has placed her at the front lines of various social issues, affecting reforms and empowering people. Dr. Vaidya is also a recipient of several awards, such as the Tejaswini Award, the Nation Builder Award, and the Superwoman 2020 Award. She has served as the head of Department of Law at NMD College of Arts, Commerce, Law and Management, Gondia, and has acted as the principal of Gokhale Education Society's NB Thakur Law College, Nasik, before finally taking up the responsibility as the principal of Government Law College, Mumbai. As an accomplished leader, Dr. Vaidya has won over the hearts of all the students of GLC with her enthusiasm and efforts to introduce a variety of programs and courses. We regret to inform that due to some unavoidable circumstances, she couldn't join.
Our keynote speaker and chief guest for today is Captain Shyam Kumar, who is a retired officer of Indian Navy. He has completed his MSc in the field of defense and strategic studies. He has been the ex-director of Ministry of Defense, along with being a warship captain and a naval instructor pilot. Besides, Sir has also been a motivational speaker, a soft skills and SSB online trainer, a freelancer, and a visiting faculty at various academies, namely Classic Classes, Future IAS, Ajab Academy, New Delhi, and Erin Academy, Kolkata. He has a vast experience in training in psychological grooming, group tasks, and has been a panelist in all types of mock interviews. He has more than 3,000 followers, around 500 registered students, and 20 successful candidates in defense and civil services in the past 2 years. We are delighted and extremely honored to have you with us, sir, and are extremely excited to hear your thoughts on the topic. Without further ado, I would like to invite Captain to kindly begin the session. Thank you.
Thank you. A very warm good evening to all of you, my viewers who are from the National Law College of Mumbai and associated National Services Scheme volunteers. Dr. Asmita, principal of the college, and Professor Krutika, the NSS program in charge, all the military aspirants, NSS volunteers, my dear friends. It's a great privilege for me, being a veteran of Indian Navy and Armed Forces, having served the country for 3 to 4 decades in various capacities, and operational training, HR, legal, inquiries, court martials, etc., and administrative aspects of the armed forces, civilian associated with the armed forces. A tinge of my tenure with the National Cadet Corps, synergizing the minds, nurturing the youth. I happen to get certain exposures of myself into these domains. And I take this opportunity to amalgamate all this together and try to bring out things in a consolidated manner on one platform so that the youth of the country in their various meeting their various dreams are given a clear driven thought process, clarity of mind about what they want to become and how is the armed forces one proven career for them in future. So, ladies and gentlemen, and my dear friends, we also have in august audience some learned lawyers, professors, and so on. So it would be my endeavor to cover up few points about the joining of armed forces as an officer at the graduation level, because the audience here would be mostly from the college background. So I'll keep my topic limited to the audience requirement of graduation level entry into the armed forces, and special reference to the Judge Advocate General JAG entry into the armed forces. Indian Defense Forces are a highly motivated brand of people having a way of life. Since it is a way of life, it has a large domain of people working together in a cohesive manner towards one singular process or purpose of defending the country from external aggressions, at the same time maintaining law and order and peace at home whenever called upon to do so. In the beginning itself, I would like to define what is an armed forces officer and why is he little different from others in the society, although he's part and parcel of the same system, same cultural amalgamation, same output from the same family and contemporary society. But let's take a case. You have a job and you have 6 hours. Let's take it in an hourly basis. We will get into that level of accuracy. 6 hours of time, and you have ample amount of resources with you for reading or for various other activities which are related with that work, and you have to produce it. You produce it. If it is 3 days, it is 4 days, it is 2 months, good enough. You are a scientist. You are a doctor, you are an engineer, you could be an advocate. Because the quality of job is very high, professionalism is of high stake, but time constraint is little flexible. Certain places, yes, there are accuracies, time constraints also, very high level of proficiency required, such as in a dissective operation in the operation theater, etc. But there is a deliberate attempt to carry out analysis and then take an action. There is no hurried attempt. There is another officer who has got a job, got 2 hours or 1 hour, and he has law and order, entire administration, government's resources at his hand. And he has the power, he has the authority, and he has to work. That is a civil officer, administrator in the streets, in the district. He's got power and he's got time constraint, but with quite a bit of resources. Now, these 2 officers also have another amplitude, and that is they may or may not succeed. They may or may not succeed. Now, there is a third officer who is in an uncharted terrain, unknown territory, challenging situation, changing environment, mean resources, no time to react, and there is no question of failure. Either do or die. And that is the military officer. Ladies and gentlemen, an officer in the armed forces has no choice. He has signed a blanket check to the government of India, to the country, to the nation, to do or die. There is no question of taking leave when the things are not in favor. There is no question of having medical problems when the things are not in favor. There is no question of lethargy, laziness, happiness, or saying, sir, I can't do it. It is not my part of the job. So that kind of change of scenario of military environment is called the military way of life. And armed forces officers are expected to be of that kind of cutout from the beginning of life. And that is where, since armed forces is the last resort for the country, and in case of any failure on part of the other two officers, the armed forces come into play and take over the job, whether it is civil, law and order, disaster management, flood relief, or any kind of terrorist nationalism, or any kind of severe activity which concerns the government and law and order situations, or which has to be seen in the light of protection of the constitution of the country and sovereignty of our nation, whether external or internal, both cases. So who governs this? Who are these people? How are they recruited? How are they brought into the stream that they all look alike, they work alike, they behave alike, they become a way of life? These are armed forces officers. And they are inducted through a stringent process of recruitment called written test or direct service selection board interviews. So I am going to look at these aspects today in my talk, in which most of the youth who are able to follow me in English, so I will be able to continue in English language. I hope that is okay for everyone. Else I would be like to mixing it with the English wherever we can, on Hindi, so that those who are unable to follow me in English can take on the Hindi on the similar understanding. शायद सभी को समझ में आ रही होगी मेरी बात, और प्रॉब्लम नहीं होनी चाहिए ज्यादा किसी को समझने में. तो मैं इसके साथ ही ये आगे एंट्रीज की बात करूंगा कि जैग एंट्री जो है आर्म फोर्सेस की. May I take a second? I got to connect up my charger. Yeah. You all can hear me? All right. So at the graduation level, the requirement to be very, very important to be part of the armed forces, to be of a high caliber officer who could be never failing in the duties. There is a stringent recruitment process through the 2 to 3 tier system in the armed forces. And that is at the graduation level, recruitment into the armed forces is done in such a manner that there is no way that a candidate is selected in a error erroneous process by which he gets recruited into the armed forces in the training institution, and thereafter he has a problem during the training. So even the training in the recruitment, it is very, very tough. The training is tough, in which also there is the elimination process. And then there is a third tier probation, in which also there is the elimination process. So those who are aspiring to join armed forces in Army, Navy, Air Force, in various branches, first of all, I would cover the branches that the Indian Army has, on which you have the choice to be selected. This is known to many of you, but just a quick glance at this. I will only touch upon Indian Army today because the topic to Navy and Air Force will become very vast, and we are looking at JAG entry for the Indian Army. So we will restrict to that part for the time being, although the induction process is almost same for the Air Force and Navy, and will be automatically covered that way, other than the technicalities and advertisement and the examination process. Theme wise, it will remain same. Duty and job wise also it will remain same. So Army has the mainly infantry, which is the main branch, armored, and the artillery, which is the fighting force of the army. It also has the engineers branch, which is also a fighting force, which moves along the troops onto the operational areas. It has also the medical branch. It has the veterinary branch. It has the education corps. It has the post office also, which is being merged out now. And it also has the JAG branch. These are the main branches that Indian Army, signals also, and ordnance also, intelligence branch. Altogether, these smaller branches, support system, logistic support system, ASC, Army Service Corps. This also looks after the logistics and the transport system of the Indian Army. As any other organization, Indian Army has this fighting and supportive arm, by which it becomes a cohesive fighting force with a highly motivated and spirited men and women who fight for the country and for any other cause on which they are called upon to. Right. Many of you would be looking at various branches, and many of the students of the law college here are looking for the JAG branch entry. So since it is a common recruitment process, I am taking this opportunity to cover a larger forum so that more number of students can be benefited out of my topic. So there are two main ways to join Indian Army as an officer through graduation level entry. And they are, firstly, the Combined Defense Services Examination, which is conducted at graduation level. Into this topic, I may not go into the very high technical details of everything, but in general, I will be covering up so that you get these pictures from your employment exchange or the various websites or the newspapers which publishes these vacancies from time to time. Combined Defense Services Examination is a written examination conducted by the UPSC twice in a year, and it has the potentials for the candidates to join Indian Army, Navy, Air Force, and also the OTA, Officers Training Academy, which is for the Short Service Commission. When I'm talking about Short Service and Permanent Commission, here I would like to touch upon there are two types of commission that Indian Army provides. Firstly, the Permanent Commission, which is a commission which is signed for 20 years of minimum period bond, and generally it is extended up to the 56 to 57 years of service. Depending upon the rank of promotion, it can rise up to 60 years of service. So Permanent Commission is given through the CDS, IMA, INA, that is Indian Naval Academy, and Indian Air Force Academy, 3 academy. All 3 provides the permanent service to the armed forces officers. Short Service Commission officers are the short officers who are initially engaged through the OTA training institute, that is at Chennai. The training period is of 9 months, whereas the training period for the IMA, INA, and Air Force is 1.5 years. Both these officers, on completion of the training, pick up the rank of lieutenant in the Indian Army. Pay, perks, allowances, and status are same for all these officers, whether they are permanent service commission or the short service commission. However, the training requirement for OTA officers is lesser. They are initially engaged for 10 years of service. And after 10 years of service, they can ask for retirement, in which they are engaged for next 4 years of service. And on total 14 years of service, they are released from service as a short service commission officers. Whereas there are certain officers of this short service commission branch, those who can think of remaining in the armed forces for a longer duration. That is, they want the permanent commission. They apply for permanent commission at the end of 10 years of service. Depending upon their previous performance, medical fitness, and their merit, they are considered to be granted permanent commission. When they are granted permanent commission, they merge with the counterpart, other officers who have been joining through Indian Military Academy as permanent officers earlier, and then they become at par with each other for further growth and advancements into the paramedical service, that is, the army has accordingly from the base to top on the promotions. So as far as the rank is concerned, they become as lieutenant, and in 10 years or so, they would be retiring as a major or lieutenant colonel. And in case they get the permanent commission, they rise up to the rank of generals or lieutenant general, and one general, which is only one, that is chief of army staff. So potential wise, the CTSC entry at graduation level provides the advancement of an officer from lieutenant to captain to major to lieutenant colonel, colonel, brigadier, major general, lieutenant general, and up to general. As far as JAG branch is concerned, JAG branch has the potential of an officer to rise from lieutenant up to major general rank. There is no further rank as on today above major general in the branch of JAG. All the perks, status, and allowances are similar for all the branches of the army, except when the officers are appointed to field area for unsafe or hazardous operations, high altitude, etc., etc. There are risk allowances, there are additional allowances, there are duty allowances, which are connected to their type of duty that they are performing. For example, I, being a naval pilot, have been getting an additional 25,000 rupees of per month pay for flying the aircraft. Similarly, a submariner in the Indian Navy would enjoy the same facility. A commando in the armed forces, special force officer, will also enjoy similar amount of money as the highest allowance that one could get, being a pilot or a submariner or a commando or an officer of that caliber in the army also. Okay. So these allowances are additional to your pay and perks that you get. As far as coming back to the academic part, how do you get recruited? CDS is conducted twice in a year. I was just covering the profile of an officer in general. Little bit of touch upon the JAG branch I will be covering little later. I have given a general understanding of when you join armed forces, what do you become, where do you rise, and what happens to you in the society. So, as far as the recruitment process is concerned, CDS entry has 3 papers: elementary mathematics, general English, and general studies, that is general knowledge paper. Now, these 3 papers, for the OTA entry, you have only 2 papers. That is general studies, that is general knowledge, current affairs, and the second one is English, general English. The third paper of elementary mathematics is not there for OTA entry. And twice in a year, It is conducted in April and October, March, April, and October, November. Vacancies are varying. Up to 450 vacancies are given to all the 4 entries total. Okay. Out of that, some goes to Army, Navy, Air Force, and rest all go to OTA entry. On completion of clearing your, maybe lakhs of people appear for CDS every year. And out of that, about 10,000 are selected for the interview. Out of this 10,000, 450 or so are selected for the final selection to join institutes. So you can see it's a tough competition and difficult. Although written examination, it is considered as one of the stepping stone for appearing for the Public Service Commission or UPSC or other CAPF examination. Generally, since the age is from 19.5 to 24, 25 for the various entries, first examination to appear after the graduation is CDSC, and most of the students who are on the verge of appearing for higher growth in their life definitely attempt CDSC and take it as a stepping stone for further examination, because the papers are mathematics, English, and general knowledge, which are all of common nature for all other examinations. It is never a wastage to appear for CDSC. Having cleared the CDSC with the merit, depending upon the performance and vacancies, you are called upon for the second tier of the Service Selection Board, that is SSB. SSB is a interview board of the armed forces, which is conducting the 5 days interview, in-house interview, by keeping you inside a campus, looking after your accommodation, food, lodging, and safety, security, medical, etc. during that 5 days, and carry out a thorough psychological, behavioral, communicational, and intellectuality, social adjustability, etc., by various exercises in a stage 1 and a stage 2 process. Now, those who are not aware of the SSB, why I'm saying this? Because JAG entry also has to go through the SSB. There is no other way to join an armed force. No commissioned officers can be inducted into armed forces without clearing SSB, Service Selection Board. This is the prerequisite for joining as an officer in the Indian Army. You cannot bypass this. You can bypass a written examination. There are other entries which I will cover. But in this case, Permanent Commission, CDS entry, and Short Service Commission OTA entry. For this, one has to pass the written examination and come to the SSB. SSB is a 5 days process. Stage 1, you have a screening test which has got a written reasoning ability test and also has a small storytelling, narrative discussion, and emerging on-spot leader quality exercise called PPDT, Picture Perception Description Test, which is a very unique process. I call it a mini SSB, in which all the elements of the next 4 days have been consolidated and made in a compact form, tested by the psychologists, the group testing officer, and the interviewing officer. All 3 are present, and in a group of 200, cutting down to 10, they carry out a stepwise exercise after your reasoning test, and then they select you depending upon the marks of the reasoning test, which is reasoning test is a very common reasoning test that it is done for the banking exam and many other places, wherein you are given certain facts and figures and you are told to draw the 4th one or 5th one, shown a diagram, logical reasonings, verbal and non-verbal both. Whatever marks you get and whatever marks you get in PPDT, both are combined to find a screening out threshold for the candidates. About 60 to 70 or 80% students get eliminated during PPDT or OIR stage 1. For example, in case In one board, there have been 200 students who have been called for 5 days interview. On the day one, there could be just 20 who will get screened in, rest all will be rejected. Or they could be 30, could be 40, they could be 10. Here, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to draw one small point. And that is relative versus absolute leader. What is relative and what is absolute leader? Armed Forces wants a threshold or an officer-like quality datum. Unless the person is above that datum, unless you have it in you, the famous slogan of the Indian Army, do you have it in you? Now, what is this do you have it in you? That leadership quality, the absolute leadership quality, not relative. Now, what is this relative quality? It means, suppose there are 100 vacancies to be covered by the UPSC, and there have been 500 students who have been selected by the written examination. These 500 have gone to SSB for the interview. Now, the SSB does not know what is the vacancy available at the UPSC level. They have no idea. They are separate body. They are looking at these 500 candidates to find an officer-like quality datum. Why? I told you, he is the man who is going to do or die. He's the man who is going to be following a way of life. He's the man who is not civilian anymore. He is a military officer. He is different. He is psych, his composition of life, thought process, psychological maturity, awareness, high level of knowledge, determination, courage, endurance, and adaptability, effectiveness, guts. All this makes him a steel on top and a passionate, soft-hearted person who is ready to die for the cause. That is the military officer. So this is an absolute leader. He is not vacancy-based leader. So what happens in the SSB? Out of 500, if this datum is not found into 480, then 480 do not get recommended from SSB. They are not fit to become an officer in the armed forces. They are below the datum. Only 20 may get recommended. On that year, UPSC will have to make a merit list of only 20. That means there are 80 vacancies which is going short. That is because, ladies and gentlemen, in the civil examinations, if there are 100 vacancies and there is a merit list of written and oral, the UPSC or UGC NET or any other examination process, or for medical, engineer, IIT, wherever you see, they draw the first 100 and then they take first 100 and fill up the vacancy. Right? There is nothing like, there is hardly any situation in which you find that people have not filled up the vacancy. Filled up the vacancy because of procedures. Vacancies not been indicated, not displayed, not promulgated. But once the examination has happened, the larger number of people qualify and written, and out of that, some are taken into the merit for oral and you get selected. So here, this is called relative merit. The 1 and 100, they both have got selected because they are just one down from each other, but they are all okay. And if there are there are 130 vacancies, even the next 30 will also get selected. They all are fit for that job. In army, it is not so. Your fitness or unfitness is not decided by the vacancy. It is decided by the datum of quality. This quality is there, then you come. If quality is not there, you don't come. That means, in a short, if I have to cut short on this point, it is that you have it in you. You are the absolute leader. You are the leader. But in the civil services, it is vacancy based. So you have a Relative leader is not that the 110th person is bad or good. I'm not talking about that part. I'm talking about that there is no stringent cutoff process of officer-like qualities in the civil, but in the armed forces, it is because of the reason of do or die, non-failure attitude, and risk of losing your country's sovereignty or many other aspects of life is concerned. And since it is the last pillar of success, the process is such devised that there is no chance of error. So, as I said, in SSB, few people will be selected for stage 2. And in stage 2, 4 days of process, you have a psychological test for first day. You have a group testing officers test on the second day, which comprises of the group discussion, which is part of the MBA curriculum. Many of the psychological test or psychometric test is also part of the very private organizations. Recently, IB also instituted for IB ACIO 2. I was part of the training for IB candidates. They have also started with the psychometric test first time, in which first they want to draw your psychometric behavior and then they take your interview in the entire 4 system. So psychometric test is important, which is also part of Tech Mahindra, I think, Reliance. Many people are conducting the psychological tests in MBA curriculum. Then group discussion, extempore speech checks, certain group behavior, group dynamics exercises, certain physical obstacles, although they are not physical per se, they look physical more, but they are mental organizing and planning ability. Those are conducted in a very pressured time-bound exercises, and those who have effective intelligence, reasoning abilities, an expressive way to communicate and influence the group, they are selected. And the last day of the interview is the 45 minutes to 1 hour of personal interview. This is as good as any civil interview, and thereafter your selection takes place. Remember, you are under 24 hours watch, under a psychological pressure of examination, conduct, behavior, and maturity. So they are looking at you for entire, honest, integral personality. Do you know yourself? Who are you? How well you know yourself? How grounded you are? Not the knowledge, the awareness part that you are able to show. Not the facts and figures, but your opinion, your views, your thought process on a sky, rainbow, jungle, monsoon, TV, fridge, laptop, national causes, international causes, current affairs, your opinion on them. What is it? How is it affecting the country, the people, society? That is what they look at you. From 18 above, 1920 at the graduation level, you are expected to be mature, independent, and completely you yourself. So there is a requirement to be cut out on this case to succeed in the SSB. Having dealt with the SSB in general, there is a medical process after that. For JAG branch also, there are medical QRs laid down for the officers level entry, which is available on the Google and other pages. Your QRs of medical requirements have to be there, and certain internal checks are carried out when you are selected by medical. There are temporary unfitness in which you are given 45 days of time. You can review or challenge the medical board, carry out a review at the nearest military hospital after gaining the weight or lose the weight, or certain operations, minor operations are also permitted. Then you recheck with your medical board and then you get selected. You wait for the merit. Depending on the marks that you have got in SSB, if it is a direct interview, or in case it is a written examination and interview, then both the marks combined, then your merit list comes out, then you join the armed forces for the training. So the process of call letter for the direct entry to the training institution is almost about 7 to 8 months. And if it is a written examination, it is almost 1 year. For example, if somebody is appearing for CDS 1 of 2022, which is in April, he will appear in April. He's already started preparing now in January. In August or so, he will go for the SSB. He will clear his medical and board. By September, October, his things will be ready. In December, his merit list will come out. In January, he will join the academy. So it is almost 10 to 12 months of process. I would strongly recommend anybody wants to join these entries for SSB, JAG entry or any other examination, must spend a long-term strategy. I will cover that little later. Let's continue with the other branches and the entry process. I hope everybody is following so far. I will be giving some time for question answer session at end of the topic, so that time we can discuss the other parts. Coming to the other entries, with the CDS entry, we also have the NCC special entry. Those who are NCC C certificate holders in the Indian arm in the NCC, they can apply for a special NCC entry, men and women both. Now, men and women, OTA short service commission or through the CDS entry is also open for men and women also, both. There are about 45 vacancies for women in the OTA, and almost 250 vacancies are generally available for the men in the OTA, short service commission. For the NCC special entry, there are 45 for the men and 4 entries for the women candidates available. NCC C certificate, A or B grade, direct call letter through SSB. No written examination is given for this. Age limit is from 19.5 to almost 25 years. All the CDS entries are up to the same age. You can just check on the Navy, which is little lesser. And Navy entries are restricted to BTech only, not the BA or BSc. Air Force also must have the science during 12th class. Although I'm not covering other parts, concentrating on the Indian Army. So NCC special entry is the second chance on which you go through the process. The process I've already covered. So now onward, I don't have to cover the SSB in detail. I have already covered in the beginning. The third entry is the engineers entry. Engineers entry is for the 4th year people who are into the engineering branch. At the graduation level, on the 4th year, the campus interview or direct call letter for SSC Tech. So SSC Tech entry, short service commission, technical entries are also available for the people. There are available entries for the education core, masters in physics and mathematics. They are also called for direct interview with minimum marks of say 55, 60 criteria. You have to see exactly in the newspapers and then apply for it. Those are available for Indian education core. As far as the JAG entry is concerned, JAG entry is restricted to very less vacancies in a year. It can be sometime twice in a year or maybe once in a year. Generally, it is also given twice in a year. If you see the present JAG vacancy which has come, if I recall, it is 4 vacancies are available for the men and 2 vacancies are available for women candidates. As far as the process of recruitment or entry into the armed forces is concerned, this is a short service commission entry. That means officer who is going to join the Indian Army as a JAG officer is going to serve for initial 10 years, then 4 more years. And he has a choice to apply for permanent commission and rise up to the rank of Major General from Lieutenant. So this is available to him. Okay. As far as the written examination is concerned, there is no written examination in the JAG entry. Age limits 19.5 to 20 to up to 27 years of age. No bar on number of attempts. You should be member of a bar, a state level bar, should be qualified in your 10 plus 2 plus 5 type of entry for the law college, or after graduation 3 years of LLB. You should have the recognized degree from the law. Age I've just covered. Number of attempts, there is no limitation till the time you meet the age criteria. Age is also given on a particular date. So please check the clear dates of the age on which you are appearing so that you don't have any problem. The job profile of a JAG officer, I would like to cover here. Job profile of a JAG officer is he joins in the pay band of 56,000 rupees, I think, to almost 1,17,000 or 23,000 of pay band. Not to go into that detail, when he joins the army, he gets the stipend about 45 to 50,000 rupees during the training, and he draws the first pay of almost 1 lakh of rupees or so when he starts his first pay. This includes his basic plus DA and transport allowances, house compensation, or this dress allowances, high altitude allowances, etc., wherever he's serving. So it comes to that much of amount. He gets the few medical facilities, free medical facilities. He gets an accommodation, LTC, as per the Government of India rules. Children education allowances, etc., as it develops. Coming to the point about the marriage, only the unmarried male and female candidates are allowed to join in JAG branch. And during the training, marriage is not permitted. Those who are found married or married during the training are expected to be withdrawn from the training, and they have to pay penalty of charges for indiscipline or whatever. And that conduct is not expected of the candidates. So unmarried male and female of the age up to 27 are expected to apply for this branch, and vacancies I just covered. Details of examination I have also covered, and the profile of an officer I am covering now. Pay and perks I have covered. What does the JAG officer do in the armed forces? As we know, you all are learned law professionals. Some are undergoing the process of getting groomed to be a lawyer and going to serve the country with pride in various other government, civil, private sectors, and actually do the same job towards keeping the law process into the firm grid and place, and let the people be peacefully, happily living in the society. So drawing justice for the causes, for the legal purpose, you are the main whole soul pillar of the country. In the armed forces, there is also a requirement to maintain legality of certain processes by which the armed forces are known for. The top quality of that is discipline, conduct and discipline. Human being, being human beings, are bound to do faults and bound to act in a manner which is not recognizable in a proper way or not suitable for the environment in which they are based or present or working for. So keeping a good eye onto the good order of conduct and discipline of the armed forces personnel is one of the important aspects of the legal branch of Indian Army, which is controlled or steered by the JAG branch. In the younger days, these officers are expected to take part. First of all, his training is combined into the OTA, 49 weeks of training or so, I think 9 months of training or so, and then getting commission. This much is a common requirement. Everybody has to go through it. It includes very high level of studies, curriculums, extracurricular activities, sports, games, presentations, learning about national and international relations, human relations issues, HR related legalities, etc., and also taking participation in operational field level value camps, wherein adaptability with the terrain, environment, and courage of conviction, determination, physical fitness and endurance, and moral responsibilities starts falling into line into his brain and his conduct and his routine behavior. and then he becomes molded into an officer of all grit and determination. In the younger days of JAG branch, he is expected to carry out analysis of various in-house inquiries and give opinion based on the Army Act requirements. There is a regulations for Army which is based on the enactment of Parliament legislation rules by which Army functions. And Army being Army, the rules are very, very strict. You all also are aware that certain fundamental laws are seized for the armed forces personnel. For example, freedom of speech is not available. Freedom to form an union or a party or cohesion forces are not available to the armed forces people. There are certain things which are seized being a military personnel. And there is a psyche, there is a way, there is an environment in which he has to function. Therefore, there is, you know that you are part of the same society. Today, you are in the law college. Soon you will be an officer in the Indian Armed Forces. Within 10 months, there is a difficulty in your psychological changes, behavioral pattern, your way of thinking, your broad-minded attitude for the society. You habit in it, you will be streaming into the armed forces very quickly, very easily, very nicely. Those who don't have, they may take some time, and those who have difficulty in attitudinal, on the attitudinal basis, they may have trouble. They get eliminated. In second tier, that is during training or during probation period. Armed forces do not take any chance because the officers have to work in independent capacity very soon as a very young officer. He has to take decisions on behalf of the country's requirements. So therefore, the chances of error is to be kept to minimum. But there are problems. There are errors. There are issues. There are perceived issues by the society regarding armed forces. Its way of functioning, because it is a strict service. It calls spades a spade. It needs that kind of purposeful activity wherein the actions have to be completed. They cannot be lingered for longer. It affects the country, people, society. And the army is looked upon by the faith of the society that this organization would be there and they will do the correct thing. So to get the correct thing or to do the correct thing, one has to be then in that psychology. So the legal branch people keep a check on these aspects wherever there is an error, whether it is professional inquiries, whether it is social issues of the human being, whether it is welfare oriented issues, whether there are hazards in the service, where there is a research requirement to carry out certain changes into the pattern, behavior, thinking process, carrying out some major changes in the armed forces, on the legal system, etc., etc. So the analysis of board of inquiries, enactment of law and order, following the rules and regulations on a routine basis, carrying out certain changes in the organizational level on the legal process, providing legal assistance to the men and women and officers whenever there is a requirement to have certain proceedings against each other on matters of error or operational hazards or certain activities which has happened in which there is an involvement of judgment by the armed forces in-house court, or in case it has to go outside the domain of the armed forces, then providing the facts and figures, exact documents, witnesses and exhibits to the civilian authorities, police, etc., etc., in a meaningful manner, for which the armed forces JAG branch do not do it directly, but assist the authorities like executive branch, the infantry branch, or the whichever area they are positioned, they carry out a assistance process to maintain these activities. They also are the custodian of the documents related to the law and order situations, all the board of inquiries. Court martial. Court martial is a phenomena which is a military court, and it is akin to the civil court almost. There is a jury in this, 3 or 5. The role, I will restrict my talk to the role of the JAG officer in the court martial. This is an important task that he has to perform. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, as it appears to be the word called Judge Advocate General, the JAG branch officers never actually become judge per se into the process of court martial. The jury is actually drawn from non-JAG branch officers, mainly the infantry branch officers. The presiding officer of the court martial is always a infantry or an armored or an artillery main fighting force officer, who are generally going to command the company, battalion, brigade, division, or command. These are the structures of the Indian Army. So they command these platforms. Like, for example, myself, I am from executive branch of Indian Navy. Executive branch of the Indian Navy is the infantry branch or Indian Administrative Service type of branch of the UPSC or civil services, or a fighter pilot or a pilot branch, helicopter or a transport pilot. This branch is considered the main branch of the Indian Air Force. These officers are expected to be trained little differently from other branches so as to hold a command platform for the Army, Navy, and Air Force. And these are the officers who can rise to the rank of Air Chief, Naval Chief, or Army Chief. So only these branches have the caliber or potentials, potentials to join to the highest rank. This is as made as per the structure, and the officers are accordingly, they have to pass exams, they have to carry out certain tests, they have to be appointed to the command billets, and then only they can rise to the higher level. For example, if I have commanded a warship, I have commanded a air squadron also, I have been in a command platform. So my 4 or 5 appointments of being commanding the various units is because of my branch in which I was inducted. So therefore, the officers who are of a decision-making qualities, those who are looking at the judgment, they are formed by the jury, for the jury. Whereas the JAG is a public prosecutor. Mainly, as a young JAG, he would be assisting the president of the court martial in the proceedings, in compilation of the exhibits, procedural analysis of documents, summoning summary evidences, summoning people, and seeing that all the legalities of the judge of the court is maintained in a proper manner. He also is expected to read the charges, draw a charge sheet on the accused, and he is supposed to also analyze the court martial proceedings in case it comes to higher echelon, because the court martial could have been at a lower echelon, at a lower organization. The recommendations can be challenged to a higher organization or approved by the higher organization, like the commander-in-chief or chief of army staff. So there is assistant at that level also, who carries out analysis of the court martial and gives the analytical views and opinions to assist the commander to approve it or dissolve it or reduce the charges, punishments, etc., all that. So this is a big responsibility that a JAG officer holds. In today's situation of human rights issues onto the Indian Army or any other army in the world, there have been a lot of controversy on the AFSA, Indian Armed Forces Special Power Act. Recently, we had a problem in Nagaland in first week of December, where some civilians have been killed in the operation. there have been a lot of activity on the repeal of this law. Army says, I have no problem. Withdraw me from the law and order duties. I will go back to the barracks and look after my conventional warfare. Our army chief has recently given an interview and said so very clearly about it, that anywhere you repeal the AFSA, we are very happy, provided the government, state government, looks at it in that light, whether the law and orders can be controlled by the local police department. So AFSA controversies, you have JNK issues, we have Northeast, we have Naxalism, terrorism, and various activities, major Gogai kind of activities happening, wherein he has to save himself from stone pelters. And there is operation going on. There could be errors, there could be controversies, there could be opinions. The officers of this branch also has to look at the human rights issues and deal with these situations and accordingly advise the commanders in that sense and look after them well. Postings and job wise, there is a happiness because generally they are not appointed onto the war zone areas, whereas they have to go for fight. The job does not connect to the operational issues. It is a deliberated, very peaceful, analytical job of learned advocates and juries and judges are very analytical in mind, highly expressive in communications, and very strong in their ability to appreciate, argue, reason out, carry out analysis of old processes of the judgments, maintain the chronology of them, quick presence of mind onto logical cross-examination of witnesses, correct timing of the witnesses, if their witness turns violent, activities on that, so on so forth. I mean, I'm not from the branch, but I'm just trying to connect up with your thought process of being a legal person. So these activities are drawn at a higher level. That means the posting of these officers start from mainly of a division level, of a brigade level, division level duties, where there is a larger organization, there is a commander who needs to be assisted for these kind of duties. So postings are not very operational. Generally, they are posted at a divisional level, at a command level, corps headquarters, at a command headquarters, and at army headquarters at Delhi, where there is a major general who heads the JAG branch. And under him, you have the deputy JAG and other people who are posted as a JAG branch officers of the Indian Army at army headquarters. And definitely at all the 7 commands, we will have the JAG officers. Under them, there will be under corps, divisions, brigade level, battalion level and all. There is no officer who are appointed. So there is no operational movement of these officers on a regular basis as far as that part is concerned. And rest all activities are for the officers are same as per any other officers. And Navy and Air Force, the role of the JAG, induction pattern, role, sometimes there could be a permanent commission vacancies depending upon the requirements, but right now, the vacancy which is right now published for the next April or so is, I think, for the short service, it is for the short service commission, very less vacancies. Without going into more details about the other branches, education branch, engineering branch, these are all going as per the requirements and published in the employment news or in the other newspaper on the if you see the if you have to join the Indian Army, then there is a site which everybody can visit, and that is available in any join Indian Army nic.in. That is the branch for women entry. Also Indian Army or Indian Navy women entries. If you just search in the Google, you will be able to get the branches very clearly. If you see, if I have to say in a very comprehensive manner about the entries part of it, so you have CDS entry, you have technical graduate entry, then you have the short service commission entries, then you have the NCC entry, you have technical entry for the graduation level engineers, and then you have the Army Cadet Corps 10+2 entry, on which the Army trains people from 10+2, on the technical entry, on other entries also. You have in-house, officers from from the ranks, Havaldar to or the other ranks can also apply for SEO or other kind of departmental promotion in which they also get commission. In the Navy, it is called commission worthy. So there are various kind of vacancies that Indian Army is taking. But the fact remains, either they have a two-tier system of written plus interview and medical, or direct cutoff with high marks of graduation or 12th marks and some cutoff, and they call for direct interview. SSB remains same, medical remains same. Training is also same for all the branches almost. The specialized training is done after you complete the OTA training. Preparation strategy for SSB. As I tell you, next 10 minutes I will take on this part. As far as the written examination is concerned, in the civil, there is a weightage of 80% written exam and 20% oral exam. So civil exams like UPSC, State Public Service Commission, all this has 80-20 weightage. Suppose you have 2000 marks paper, 1800 marks like CAPF, almost 1800 marks you have onto the written examination. 200 marks personality test, 45 minutes of personality test. UPSC has similar kind of deal with it. As I'm taking the UPSC mock interview for UPSC civil services officers also, I interact with the candidates who are aspiring to become IS, IPS, IFS, or the IRS, railway service, engineering, the class group B, allied services. 19 type of cadres are there in the UPSC examination. State service examination. When I was reading the biodata was being read. So Arena Academy, Calcutta. I was just trained in a lady who has stopped the 2019 course, which was declared last year, 2021, as the topper of the West Bengal Public Service Commission. So the mock interview when I'm conducting, I realized that there is a different structure for the civil services. In the armed forces, it is different. In case you are going through the written and oral examination after graduation, remember, ladies and gentlemen, and my dear friends, the weightage of written is 50% and 50% for the oral. And the written you make clear, because it is a very simple, not a optional paper of physics, chemistry, commerce, or some economics or some subject which is taken into the CAPF or UPSC. Here there is just elementary mathematics, English, and general knowledge. So there is a general profile of the subject, not a very specialized subject in written examination. So chances of you clearing the written is higher than for the UPSC mains especially, or CAPF for that matter, or for Public Service Commission state level exams. But the second part, the SSB,
You're not audible, sir.
So you on mute. Please unmute yourself.
yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the preparation strategy is very important for the people. It is very, very important because the SSB is a test of awareness, behavioral skills in the group, and a psychological maturity, perceived requirements. So this does not happen overnight. Personality development is a process which is a slow and steady process. And there are requirements to have the officer-like qualities in the armed forces. There are 15 of them which needs to be having in which have to be there inside you as a structured element of your personality. So this can lead to a problem in case you have a lesser awareness of yourself inside of you, and your sanskar, which I call it, sanskar, which has been developed over a period of time by your physical grooming of, good order, good conduct in your physical fitness, by your biological genes firstly, and keeping them intact as a person with good physical activities and maintaining your physical personality. Medical requirements are met by your medical board in any case, but the other aspects of good conduct during the examination can develop only by a slow process of reading, understanding yourself, and looking after these with a routine activity by some preparation. So I will recommend all of you to don't go to SSB just without much preparation, because they don't like the people who have come with casual attitude and not much of preparation. Okay. So this is important, ladies and gentlemen, to carry out a preparation strategy by, first of all, carrying out a good insight into you. Number one, who am I? Know yourself well. When I say know yourself well, your biodata, your background, your academic flashback, your extracurricular sports blending of mind, outward approach, social adaptability, effectively talking to people and able to be one of them is a requirement. That is one. Secondly, good knowledge of what's happening in my city, my country, neighboring countries, international affairs, and current affairs, and society, how the society running. Thirdly, involvement of you with the family, people, society, friends, and how well you are amalgamated in the system. And fourthly, your passion, your willingness, your motivation to serve the country with honesty and integrity and a clean and neat approach for the life. No unclear views, no half-hearted, no underconfident approach, and not a shaky person who is still not knowing what he wants. These are clearly checked, assessed, and well steered during the process of 5 days stay at SSB, so that no one can hide these from eyes of the vigilant assessors, that is psychologists, who are from the DRDO organization and the military organization, and the GTO, an army officer generally, always, mostly, and the IO, the interviewing officer, who is generally the senior most person, and also the board president. And these officers are supposed to be very, very experienced in their domain to carry out assessments. A caution for the people: reading from Google, making WhatsApp group, learning from your own colleagues for preparation of SSB does not work. Any senior who has cleared SSB, he or she herself will not know how she cleared. People have cleared SSB in 4th attempt, 5th attempt, 6th attempt. I have candidates who have been trained by me for JAG entries. They came very late. You need to have long-term, slow-pace strategy to clear SSB. There is no crash course for changing personality. You can't have overnight changes in you. It needs to be girded in you in a slow manner. Sanskar cannot develop in very quick fashion. Remember, 23, 24, 25, the age is against the person for the attitudinal firmness. Flexibility is getting lost. Memory cells are getting ripe, difficult to change. When you go to the SSB and come back, realize there are certain things which I was not aware, and it is to be changed. Now changing, if you have it in you, no problem. If you don't have it in you, your realities are different than expectations of SSB. There is some person who needs to bridge the gap. You need a mentor. You need someone. If your parents could do it, well and good. If they couldn't do it, obviously you needed a person who is a professional, who understands the requirement of the SSB and who can guide you in a right manner, not half-hearted, not chalta firta, girte padte. No. SSP is a process of high dynamics of mind, body, and intellectuality. All three combined together, a good, knowledgeable person backed up with practical awareness, fundamentalism of the subjects, opinions, strong views set up in the mind, and not adverse views, negative views, positive views, moderate views, good for the people, society, country, always in a positive thought process, taking even a negativity to positivity. All this, if you have, you will get selected. And those who are looking for the training of SSB, they should get trained in a professional manner. And in case you have it in you, you don't need any training for SSB. SSB does not expect a candidate to come with some trained requirements. All the exercises are very simple. They are conducted like word association test. You have to make some words. You have to make some stories. English, it appears so simple. You have to discuss certain parts, carry out some arguments, carry out some planning. They can be done on spot. But how well you develop them into one to another exercise and progressively show the trends of development on spot by presence of mind is the requirement of the SSB. It can only happen because of your good quality already in you. So prepare 6 months in advance, 1 year in advance. Those who are in third year of LLB, second year of LLB, or those who are graduating students from first year, I am doing online training for the SSB classes. I have students from 10th class, 8th class sometime, 10th for NDA, first year, second year for CDS. I give them the break, get them for few hours of classes, carry out some molding of soft skill development into them, trigger and ingrain certain qualities to nurture them into the different kind of human beings, give them for a preparation strategy remotely connected to me. Don't come to the classes, don't waste time here, but show the behavioral traits to your parents, friends. They should tell you you are changing. And daily studies, 10 minutes, half an hour daily, you start grooming. By 1 year or 6 months to 1 year, you are there. So this is the preparation strategy. It's available on I think my telephone number is available to the people. My YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, etc. could be available to the people. You can follow me up. The coordinator, the host, co-host, I think Avlash and Onkar, madam is there to divulge with these informations for the NSS crowd, for the other students who are there around. You can contact me. You can just see SSB Sham, SSB Sham, #SSB Sham. You can see my YouTube videos or contact me for any counseling in case you won't need to be having some doubts about it. There are no compulsions or conditions applied to only the counseling. We can have a small group where I can counsel the students for the joining of preparation for the SSB, etc. So that is up to you. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm coming to the end of the topic. House is open for the question answer sessions in case somebody has, and you can come up. And rest all, you can contact me separately for the meeting success to your dreams. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity, the law college and the faculty, the principal and the coordinator NSS program in charge, Madam Kritika, and all the coordinators who are here. Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to the questions in case anybody has.
Thank you so much for your enlightening words, sir. It's very interesting to you. Now, as we come to the end of today's session, I would now like to invite my co-host Lakshita to present the vote of thanks.
Thank you so much, Saloni. Now, it is my utmost privilege to offer my regards to everyone who has contributed in the successful completion of today's lecture.
Just a minute. One raise hand.
Yes, I do have a doubt.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so if a person takes entry through CDS and OTA, so is there a chance that the person could go for JAG entry through internal connections, like when you're a part of the organization, or do I have to go through the same process of SSB again?
No, there is no departmental examination for JAG. You have to be inducted into a particular examination through CDS. The entries are fixed for IMA, INA, and the Air Force. JAG entry has to be done only by the Short Service Commission through direct SSB. CDS does not have a JAG entry in this particular vacancy.
Okay, thank you, sir. And one more question. For Indian Navy, we do have a JAG entry for LLB students. So is there any separate entry apart from JAG for law students?
Law student, there is only one entry called JAG entry in the Indian Navy. There is no other entry for that. For
Okay,
all other entries, all the entries, Navy is very strict now. And 2007 onward, all the entries for the Navy has become BTech, except education branch where you have to be a MSc Physics and Mathematics. And for the logistic IT branch, there is, that IT engineer or, commerce in the logistic branch. One or two vacancies are available, but most of the vacancies in Indian Navy is BTech entry.
Okay, thank you, sir. And for repeaters, the selection rate for repeaters in SSB in comparison to freshers?
It's a good question. You will be very surprised. I have last 2.5 years, I have had trained about 500 students, registered candidates on online training. As a freelancer, I'm doing from New Delhi. And today also I have 3 classes. I've suspended a lot of students of mine are here in this webinar also. There is a student who has just cleared the SSB on 16th attempt. My student, he has just joined Indian Military Academy on his 16th attempt. From Mumbai only, he was my chest number 05. And I think it is there on the YouTube. The second student who has just joined OTA 10 days back has cleared his special NCC entry on his 6th attempt. So as long as you can attempt, I just said, they will look at your changes that you have brought it in from the previous one. And have you understood the requirements? And if you have changed yourself, they will take you. So don't worry about the attempts.
Thank you so much.
So there's also a question in the chat box. Are there any seats reserved for sports person for national players?
Officers level sports entry is very, very restricted. Once in a while, it is published. SSB is again important. SSB is there. Even the Navy has musician entry. For naval band, the officer entry is through the musician entry also. There are certain, one vacancy also Navy came for the hospitality sector. That is the hospitality, that is logistic management for the message, etc. Logistic duties. But it is very restricted, but there are entries for the sports person. Although you all must understand that requirement to join armed forces through sports entry as an officer is very bleak. These are mainly men level entries. Although I must say that armed forces are cradle of sports, and once you join as an officer in any other entries as a JAG, and if you're a very good sports person for a particular sport, you will be nourished to the best till you go for Olympics. So they will be giving you all the supports. But joining as a sports person, as an officer is very, very limited.
Okay. So there's one more question from our attendees that does tattoo hamper any of the interviews for the selection?
Yes, as per the medical QRs, external tattoo visible in any part of the body is not permitted. So please read the medical criteria for this. Tattoo is one of the hindrance for joining armed forces. So this is a difficulty. Please read the regulations clearly and then go for the exam. But I have a point here. Passing SSB is a great thing. The 5 days they will not check your tattoo. The tattoo will be checked in the medicals. So if it is not on part of the visible part of the body, I would strongly recommend all my candidates. There have been many candidates of mine who have cleared the SSB but have failed in the medicals. They got demoralized. But gentlemen, your status in the society, confidence in you that you have cleared SSB is great. So go for it. Don't worry about medical because you don't know. You may have a tattoo problem, but other has a organ problem. In the sonography, in the X-ray, in the report, in the blood report, something can come out which you don't know. So why to bother? Why not take it as a stepping stone and appear for it? So go all set. Don't worry about medicals.
There's another question, like, in your opinion, why are the vacancies so less for the JAG entry as compared to the other entries?
JAG, requirement of JAG, I said, are not for the fighting force. They are not available in the war zones. They are in the command platforms. They are the custodian of the regulations of the armed forces. So the number of people required for this purpose is less. There are not 1,000 JAG people who will be going to fight the war on the border. They are not on the LSC and LOCs. They are in the command headquarters, on the office structures as a custodian and advisor to the senior officers for maintaining law and order, conduct, discipline, etc., and carrying out certain enactment of the situations. Therefore, the vacancies are obviously less. The doctors will be less, engineers will be less, infantry will be more. As if you have to see the policeman on the street in a particular branch are more. The lesser of the traffic police, more are the people who are in the law and order. Similarly, here also similar.
Seeing no more questions in the chat box, we shall now proceed to the vote of thanks.
Okay, thank you, Saloni.
One
Now,
more.
so for any of the branch entry in armed forces, what is if a person having spectacles and is corrected vision allowed?
See, there are again medical branch QRs laid down for these issues. I would not exactly be specific, although I have all the details, but just have a look in the medical QRs. 6x6 is available, and with certain corrections, you will be able to appear. Again, I would like to come back to the previous recommendation that why are you bothered for these things? How does it matter? He's giving you free of cost journey cost for going and coming first time, free lodging, free accommodation, and 5 days of exposure to it's a high profile interview society in which you come to know many things. Why don't you go for it? Let the medical board look at you. Let them say no. But remember, you will be called SSB recommended candidate throughout your life. It's like passing JEE, getting a good standard and not going for joining an NIT or IIT and saying, sir, I left IIT. So you left SSB, you armed forces. You didn't do any mistake. It was a medical issue, which was God gifted or biological. Remember, intellectually, you are there. So please have this confidence in you and grow more into it. Any more questions, please?
Sir, apart from questions, I really love to hear you after so
great.
much time. This is the jacket which I bought on board Virat, which I have done camp under you only.
Yes. I remember.
Thank you for accepting the invitation.
Thank you, Omkar. So nice to see you from the Kolhapur to this and the ship attachment camp at Mumbai. I remember all the events. I carry long memories. My students are always with me for years together because I do a long-term training. Do well. Keep in. Hope you meet your dreams. And if I could be of any help, always.
Thank you.
Okay, so now as we come to the end of today's session, it is my utmost privilege to offer my regards to everyone who has contributed in the successful completion of today's lecture. Firstly and foremostly, to our keynote speaker, Captain Shyam Kumar sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your enlightening words. Secondly, to respected Principal Ma'am, Dr. Asmita Vaidya, for always being the guiding spirit for all of us. I would also like to thank the Program Officer of GLC NSS Unit, Professor Krutika Tembulnikar Ma'am, for being always there to guide and motivate us. I would also like to thank all the teaching and non-teaching staff members of GLC. I also convey my regards to all students of GLC NSS team for their efforts in coordinating this session. On behalf of the entire GLC NSS unit, I thank you all for being a part of today's session, which was indeed very informative. Over to you, Saloni.
Thank you, Lakshita. I request everyone to please switch on their cameras for a photograph.
Thank you so much to all of you for all your efforts. Before we end, I would request everyone to kindly fill in the feedback form that is provided in the chat box. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Jai Hind.
Thanks, sir.